Hi, welcome back to Yachting Around. We're in for a treat today. We have Scott Monroe with Racine, Riverside, Marina in Wisconsin. So, Scott, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. And I look forward to just telling you a little bit about our operation. So,
Absolutely. And what makes Racine Riverside so special is that it's been family owned and operated, serving the community over the last 26 years, and not to mention direct access to the Great Lakes. So that is very amazing. I'll let you dive in and you could tell us a bit about. The history, your legacy, and everything you have to offer at this very multifaceted marina of yours.
okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, well, like I said, 26 years in business, family owned, started by my father and a couple of his two other employees that were able to purchase the company from a long time Racine family that owned this marina and property for like something crazy. It was like 150 years or something like that. So goes way back. But over that time frame, we've kind of just been developing, improving, expanding the operations here. So we were currently maybe storing, I don't know the exact number. We'll see where we end up this year, but it's well over 600 boats. I don't know if it'll be seven somewhere like that, but I mean we're always in the process of the seasonal in the water and out of the water, being in the northern climate here. So that becomes a big part of the operation, is just all the putting of the boats out, the winterizations, and then, in the spring, the reverse process happens. So that's always just a cycle that we kind of go through every 6 months. But yeah, I mean, we've got two travel lift wells that we're operating, two boat launches, several big heated inside storage facilities, full brokerage services, new boat sales. As Dufour Yachts, which is kind of a luxury sailboat brand, is where we have a sailboat niche for sure. Not a lot of folks on the lake really want to mess with that. Some of the other big powerboat marinas and brands kind of find us as a nuisance, but that's kind of where we definitely excel. But we all of us are power boaters here too, and have all the stuff. So outboard, certified for Honda and Mercury are the big brands. We're also a package Yamaha dealer. We're a Rapallo center console dealer, and then we also do a pretty good inflatable tender business. So you probably won't find anybody bigger in the inflatable tender game than us when it comes to supplying these things, even safety vessels for fire departments, things like that, local law enforcement, or just being on the back of your bigger tenders that, a lot of people pretty much just tool around the harbors in these things. So whenever, they don't want to back the big boat out of the slip, everybody or the kids or the grandkids hop in the inflatables and can toy those all around. So those are kind of three of the major um, things that we do. But we also have I don't know if you ever heard of the franchise Sail Time. You might have some out there, but we also own the southeastern Wisconsin franchise of Sail Time. So that's kind of part of our arsenal as well. So we have ways for almost everybody to gain access to the water, no matter what the price point is or no matter what you're looking to do. We have points of entry at all these things.
Awesome. So it sounds like that you guys are consistently busy. Yes, it's seasonal in regards to summer and everyone's on the water, but like you said, you have your winter time whenever maintenance typically higher.
We kind of switch gears. So right now we're kind of wrapping a bow on. So like the winterization process of all these boats really takes us up to about Thanksgiving all the time. And then we have, like at one of our facilities, we have a lot of floating piers, which we end up hauling out of the river just because they freeze, and so that'll prevent damage. So we've created a quick release pin system. So we pull out all our docks and pull them up and store them. So that pretty much takes us to the end of November, and then we really switch gears to the off-season program of what owners are doing. So, the wintertime restorations, the wintertime wish list of systems that didn't work well for folks over the boating season. We really try to just work with people and individually come up with what their off-season program looks like for maintenance, and that way we can fit it into their budget so they can figure out what is going to be a major expense, or what's just the good maintenance items that things are working good and keep them working good, or if you got major problems that you're going to need something a much more labor intensive thing to solve your problems.
When is the busy season for buyers?
Really, I mean, of course, it's always springtime. It's always we see a flurry of activity that goes kind of in the fall here, like people making their decisions, because it's really hard around here. We always struggle with, once you go into brokerage, any brokerage sale here in the wintertime where you can't effectively do surveys and sea trials, that always kind of hold things up. So, I mean, you can't necessarily sit in a pattern where, okay, I'll take your offer, but now the boat's going to be off the market for 5 months, and then you get cold feet on some little, minuscule survey issue, and then now, we've taken the boat off the market and just sat in this holding pattern for 5 or 6 months, and then the deal ultimately doesn't go through. So spring and fall are definitely typically it. Usually people, if they are looking to buy new, they typically have done it by the 4th of July time. In the season after that, it little kind of trails off a little bit, and then so that's the typical season. But I don't know that there's a typical rhyme or reason. We've had big years where people have made plenty of transactions in the off season, just because they want to. It's hard to do all this stuff when you get into April and May and the yards are super busy and all this stuff is going, to now try to schedule bigger projects or whatnot. A lot of times things get pushed back and just drag and carry on, and then it's the seasons are short up here, so it's really, you want to make your decisions kind of at the end of the season so you can start like right off, and whether it be April or May or whenever we get started, that you're not trying to monkey around putting together a deal that now strings along, so you may not close until June or July, where it's really like you're really cutting into really the whole operating season that we have here. So I mean, you really got to take that into account, because some of these transactions do take a considerable amount of time to go from, just getting an offer to actually, to the closing table.
Yeah, makes total sense. And you yourself, you're a sailor, correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty active in the really the Great Lakes sailing community. I mean, I've grown up down here as a local, junior sailor at the Racine Yacht Club, and kind of grew up through the ranks of that, and becoming a sailing instructor down there for a little bit. That was kind of my high school job, and through college a little bit, but then also um, grew up sailing, opties, lasers, starboats, to some Etchels, to graduating into some of the bigger boats and some of the Great Lakes sleds that we race around here. So yeah, I'm definitely an avid sailor of that. I'm actually, owner of a GL 52, which a lot of people even out on the West Coast will know the name of. I think it was most formerly called Wasabi when I bought it Long Beach, um, out of Long Beach. But then we've had there's boats done the Transpac. That's a big race out there that people have done for long period of time. But I'll know my boat is Mean Machine and Bud and a couple of other things as well. But yeah, we do the Great Lakes circuit here, the Chicago Mac race, the Hook race, Queens Cup, and then a lot of the other. Sometimes we'll enter in some of the GL 52 events, but they got a lot of professional crews or semi-pro crews going on, and I've kind of just had my crew of childhood friends that all grew up around this area that have kind of continued on the legacy that, my father passed down and some of our other mentors and older members of the yacht club. So we're trying to keep the tradition.
That's amazing, and, it really serves a community, right? Like, especially getting on the water, doing things together, creating jobs or whatnot, so it's really special for sure. And you guys offer several types of sailing programs, or you just kinda do the
Well,
club thing?
y- yeah, well, okay, so you have several different ways in it. So there's like good entry points by just yeah, they have an adult family sailing program that's at the yacht club that is kind of almost if you're a member there, you can, and it's not some big exorbitant. It's more of a blue collar working yacht club where it's not some crazy, prices to join and all that. But then you can just meet members, and a lot of times people will, you'll before you know it, you'll be on somebody else's boat going to try to get the experience to see if it's something that you even like, it kind of takes that introductory period where, a lot of times people go out and they're getting seasick or they're ralphing or this is going on and they know right away that like, hey, this boating thing probably isn't, or hey, the husband likes it, but the wife doesn't like it, or, they like it, but the kids don't, or this or that. So, I mean, that's usually a good entry point. Also, our sail time program is a good way for people to get an introduction to it and access like a nicer boat that you're not gonna necessarily be, kind of turnkey. Like you can get some training and hop on board and not have some super long commitment, maybe be, tied to something for a 12-month period or a season to try it if you like it without being, forced into like, okay, actually buying a boat and getting your insurance and getting your slip at the marina and doing all these things, which tend to be, pretty big barriers to entry for a lot of people, which make it intimidating, which so now, people aren't enjoying the sport or even getting into it just because of the cost. Everything becomes overwhelming and they just decide they don't even want to venture into it because it seems unattainable.
Yeah, that's fair. Alright. So, what is your favorite thing about running the marina?
I mean, with me here, I feel like we're in a very unique position. I mean, I get to spend, you know, pretty much all day, every day with, my family interacting with them, which is I've got a great relationship with mother and father and all the team, we got a team of about 30 people that help run this place and it's much it is. I've known a lot of these people a long time and being able to really come down and spend this much time with people that are, uh, God, they've all seen, a lot of them have seen me grow up as well too. So there is a very familial feel about our organization. So it's nice to be able to have that and spend this, kind of quality time with them every day and while we're, in the trenches duking it out, trying to run a small, small to medium sized business and organization and all the different challenges that come along with that. So I mean that's pretty special. But we're pretty tied to the community, so I like to be able to, we almost it's somewhat of a service and a need here with, there's a big municipal harbor here that, we don't own or operate, but, they're undergoing it's like a 600 slip marina that is undergoing a big renovation now as they're trying to capture more people and draw from the bigger cities, Chicago, Milwaukee, things like that. But I mean, we do have a lot of people that really come from all over the country that do want to spend some time or experience a season or two on the Great Lakes to what they have to offer. So they'll find a spot, they'll come here, they'll pick a boat and kind of figure out a base of operations, and then they'll boat out of here until they get tired of it, until they've had their fill or figure out what the next adventure is. And then we can help facilitate whether you're buying or selling or being part of a club or just looking for a marina or have your own boat or however you want to do it, we can pretty much facilitate your needs. So I kind of just tell people to tell me what it is you're looking to do, and then I can kind of tailor the situation around to your exact needs, because it gets pretty specific and custom into what everybody is looking to do in this, in this space. So it's more of a relationship you got to build. This isn't just like some quick sale type of thing where somebody comes in and you sell them something and then they're off down the road. That's really not how this industry works.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned some challenges. What are the biggest challenges that you guys face?
Man, it's
What subjects?
everybody. Yeah, I mean, they're endless. The challenge is endless. But I know a lot of marinas are struggling this now with really, people who want to get into boating, but maybe they get in over their head, or they were in a position of their life at one moment where they kind of took this leap and got a boat, but it didn't turn out to be what they imagined, or one mechanical thing kind of derailed everything, and it's a snowball effect of where they might not have understood what they were buying or getting involved in. So like, even around my marinas or yards, we'll have, at any given time there might be 2 to 3 dozen repossessions going on, or boats that just kind of just get left here, or people just decide to go dark or go ghost on you, and not maintain, not decide to talk, not decide to pay, not decide to do anything, and then before you know it, you got a whole fleet of ghost boats that aren't really getting maintained, and it just falls into our lap to do something about it. And then so it's people don't just leave us to titles, they get afraid of us calling or looking for the bills. So it's not just so easy, and it's not like necessarily the yards don't want to just let people say off the hook of like, oh, okay, yeah, you didn't pay your bill or whatnot, so I'll absorb the cost, and then I'll absorb a disposal fee, or I'll work to sell the boat free at my cost, which basically just it's a losing proposition for basically everybody involved. So I mean, I'm really trying to you know, educate the people on just what it takes, or what they're getting involved in, on like what the billing season looks like of owning a boat. So it doesn't matter where you are in the country, but you're gonna have these seasons of billing where, hey, your budget is going to be, whatever it's going to be. And it could be rather large depending on what kind of program you're trying to run. But I mean, it's not, people are going to go from, you're probably going to be at a minimum of $5,000 to start anything, to have any sort of program. And I mean, this can range up to tens of thousands depending, you get there really quick. So
Yeah.
it's like a guy, a tech being on your boat. I mean, it's easily going to be, if he's there for just a day, you're going to ring up a 1,100, $1,200 labor bill, and we all know that any parts on a boat aren't cheap. So when you look at that, and people always think you can solve things in an hour or two, and most things in the marina world, it's like you show up to somebody's boat and getting access and pulling up their bedding, or moving their stuff out of the way to gain access to a system. Nobody thinks about that. They just think you're going to show up to the boat and you're a professional, so you'll just wave this wand over this mechanical system that some other foreign designer designed, created, and built, and now you're here trying to troubleshoot something. And people don't always see the value in the homework time of like doing the research on all these systems, because this isn't the car thing. They didn't produce millions of them on a mass scale. They did a small number of them and only ran them for a few number of years, and now it's embedded in your boat or system, and nobody's specialized or trained in any of that
Yeah.
specific system. It's rare that they are, and if it is, it's usually a niche system. Um, so it's really just the biggest challenge is really just educating and having a good group of owner base that we have a good relationship back and forth with. Because I don't want to, no yard really wants to just be in here battling over every single hour build for something that a customer doesn't think should have taken that long. So in hindsight, you can sit and do the the armchair quarterback thing. And okay, well, it wasn't that issue. It turned out to be this issue. So I don't want to pay you for your time associated in getting to the solution, you know.
Yeah. Do current boat owners charter it out?
That gets in a much harder thing too, because most of the things, if you're chartering, you really need, like, people want to do that on a newer boat. It's like if your boat isn't up to par to begin with, it's like you can't just charter something that you're having problems with, because that comes with a whole different range of insurances and liabilities. That, I mean, it sounds like a, it sounds like a good idea, but the reality, once you try to put that in the, it's not the same in the real world of just theory of, oh, I'm going to rent my boat out for an afternoon or whatever to somebody, and I'll curb some costs. It doesn't quite work like that. And we see people do it. And I know they've got a ton of problems in Chicago and some of the bigger cities of people running these charter operations that aren't really, up to, up to code, and, and a lot of liability, and people get hurt, and there's different things that go on. And, so I know the Coast Guard has definitely cracked down on a lot of these operations, because a lot of them are, can be pretty wild, pretty wild. And you want to,
Okay, yeah,
everybody.
that's good to know because I know that's a big thing going on right now. Yeah, and like you said, it's not like someone renting their house on Airbnb, you know? This is a movable, object, so, I definitely see your perspective there.
Well, people would go out in, in the lake, and just like the ocean, it can change quick and be dangerous. So you can't just necessarily hand over your vessel, because I mean, 30 minutes later you can be up on the rocks in the harbor and you got a major situation, and now you're on the news and everybody's, you know, doing this whole rescue operation, because it's happened, countless times out here on stuff like that. So it's a real thing. So you got to take all this stuff serious.
Yeah, for sure. Dealing with obviously the customer base, if there's one or two things that would make you guys' life easier in day to day, whether it's dealing with the customers or general operations, maybe streamlining, efficiency or whatever, what would that be? Do you guys use any sort of tech or emerging AI to streamline the back end work for you while you deal with, the customers and the front end?
Uh, we've, we're not there, not there yet. I mean, we of course have light speed, and all the technicians and stuff here, try to operate on a schedule. So they'll, show up to work, and their inbox is full of all the daily tasks that they're going to do, and they go out and punch in and take notes and do all that stuff to record their day and findings, and really gather the information on what's been going on. It's really just kind of almost just reaching out, so that, and having this one-on-one consultation time with people who are going, because I want to know who's going to be in our yards as well too, so I can just cut off these bad situations that are going to happen maybe before they start, and understand, because I know we struggle. I'm sure a bunch of other marinas struggle with it too, just trying to get customers to fill out our paperwork. Too many times it just goes, they just disregard it, or it goes in the trash. But like, we have no way of knowing like what you want us to do, because it'll all do, like, well, you do what you did last year isn't like it's not an acceptable thing. I need a legal, like a contract of, like, I don't want to do stuff you don't want to do. I don't want to do stuff that you're going to dispute me later. Like, so I mean, I really just almost have to pick up the phone and spend the time going one on one with these people and having a real conversation with them, so I get a feel for, like, okay, do you want to do your maintenance that keeps this boat actually alive and running well, or are you one of these guys who isn't going to do anything until the weak link breaks, and then now you have a bunch of weak links, so I fix one weak link, but it snowballs into several, and then we just have a bad experience where you're you know on the internet roasting the marina that they didn't do a good job, or and the people, like, the marina industry is famous for this kind of stuff. I mean, these situations kind of get bred out of thin air on what people think actually happened and what the true facts of the situation are, and then it'll just go online and want to, discredit your company, or try to leave you negative reviews of things just because they didn't like the outcome, where they'll totally disregard their whole role in any of it and just kind of point blame at the marina. I mean, I know it's a constant thing here, and not that it's like, I don't want to say like fighting back, but I also want to, like, you can't just, like, most of the people are down here in this industry are trying to do and deliver, decent goods and product, services at a, in good faith, and do all this stuff. But I mean, understand like really how hard it is to work on some of these things that we're working on and solving some of these problems. So, I mean, I can't, I won't be around or survive if we just spin wheels at, aimless projects of, you know, um, not clear defined goals of what we're trying to fix here. So, I mean, the scope of work really has to be detailed out, and then we have to stay in contact with the customers throughout the process, because otherwise things get off the track really, can get off the rails pretty quick, and then you end up with a negative outcome instead of a positive one. So
Right, yeah, acting in the preventative sense, would definitely help you. I could see that for sure. It's a
yeah,
lot to
well, like
deal
I
with.
said, yeah, I mean, you should spend a little bit of money on your boat every year, upgrading, whatever your weakest link is. So you're not, come the weekend before 4th of July and you have your families all coming into town, and now your bathroom doesn't work, and now this is a major emergency, and if I don't send somebody over there immediately this afternoon, your holiday weekend's ruined. I get a bad review online because your poor planning doesn't constitute our emergency right in the mix of things. I mean, that's why we try to schedule things in a proper manner and do things the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned you've been involved with or had some crazy deals come your way over the years. Like, can you expand on that with some examples?
You just man, you never know, like, um what people's mindsets are when they're coming in to buy something. So usually this moment starts when they get into it and they'll put an offer on something, but then the survey comes back, right? And then now you have something, and I read surveys a bunch, and like, I have a background in this, so before, like, we were telling, but I mean, I've grown up in this. I went to ended up going out to the landing school of boat building and design to get my systems degree in boat systems, that kind of thing. And then I've been a tech in the field and wrenching on all this stuff for over a decade, even before I started getting into the roles that I'm in now. So I'm very fluent in this, and I got a lot of experience in actually doing the work. So I can speak from a point of knowledge on that stuff, and I see a lot of even marine surveyors who went online and took the class because they wanted to do something else, but now they have a templated survey, and like, you can tell when something comes back that might not make sense, or in one area, you're making a mountain out of a molehill and you're completely glossing over a real issue that to me would raise a red flag. They completely gloss over, but then now you're going to make a big deal out of something that's easily rectifiable. And I never know what people's reactions are going to be to these surveys. So there's this timeline that goes on to where you get through these stages of the deal, but then after some issue comes off on a survey, and I never know. So I usually typically don't say a lot until it comes back and see where people see what the hot button issue is, and then I'll, can give you a detailed opinion on what is being said here, or how it normally goes, because especially if you're getting brokering older boats, or it depends on the age, because I mean, it scares people off a ton when you get a marine survey back, and you go to the results and findings or whatever, and a surveyor who want to do a good job has listed all this stuff on a boat, and the boat may be 10 or 15 years old or whatever, 20 the case may be, but like people will just, oh, well, no, we got to back out of this deal now, or try to figure out a way out. So it's like you go through all these processes to get down the road. People get in a cold feet, and then, a seller doesn't want to let a buyer off the hook for what they perceive isn't a big deal. The buyer wants to, now feels like this has been some undisclosed issue that should have been disclosed. So everybody on each side of the transaction now is like at this stalemate where they feel like they're getting scammed or one pulled over on them. And then, like, I usually have to be the mediator that comes in and says, listen, this issue, not a big deal. We'll resolve it like that. This isn't here. Let's not go ticky tack back and forth. Like this, the seller only wants to, like, they're only going to reduce their price by X amount of dollars. And then now these issues are yours. So all the stuff on the survey, we're going to call it worth X amount of dollars. And I can give you an estimate or whatever on what that's going to fix, but these issues are going to be yours. They're going to do a price reduction in this amount. Do you want the boat or not? Because otherwise, we have to figure out, you're liable for this cost and you're liable for that. And then we're terminating this. And now the boat goes back on the market and we start the whole process again with somebody new, which may take several months to unfold. So it's like I've seen people torpedo deals over a small amount of money when it's like this really doesn't make any sense to torpedo a deal over, say a few $1,000 when you consider the alternative. Well, we might be back on the market for 3 or 4 months, and summer billing season is coming up, or we're coming back to winter storage again. And everybody, of course, always thinks their boat's worth way more than it is, and you bring them realistic offers, and they turn down offer after offer, only to again 5 months later, find yourself in a situation where it's like, if we just would have done this 5 months ago and you would have listened to me then, like the boat would have been sold, we would have been moved on, all this would have been over with. But it took 5, 6 months of pounding your head against the wall to ultimately end up in a spot that I did deliver you, you know, several months ago that you turned down. And now I continue to work on your behalf to bring people to the table. And, so it can be a vicious cycle where, I spend a lot of time answering phone calls and dealing with stuff on the front end to actually make it to a qualifying a buyer, to making it to a showing, to getting to the part of the survey, to doing all this stuff. So
Wow, you might as well be a divorce attorney too.
I
That's what
mean,
it
you
sounds
gotta
like.
well, yeah, I mean, the situations in the Marina, I can't tell you how many people we've sold boats to. 6 months later, it's not happening. The one spouse thinks the other is paying the boat bill. Pretty soon this comes in, nobody has any money. We call it, I got a coffee table book of all these stories of people reading me that, it's almost become a kind of thing of comedic value here to us as we listen to see, okay, like, listen to this swan song. So it's like, okay, so basically what you're saying is we're partners in this boat now together by default because you're in the yard, and we all need to find a way out of this together, where it's like, no, this isn't like my boat, this is your boat, and here's what I can do, and here's what I'm not going to do. Or because they don't realize any of the costs associated with, like, what it costs to be on Boat Trader or Yacht World or market your own website or maintain all this stuff. They have no idea of any of it. So they just think we're a marina, and because it's boats, you must be raking in money hand over fist. And like, you absolutely want to help donate to my cause, or hey, if you're listing my boat, that means I don't pay for storage, right? Okay, that's the kind of mindset. So if you don't clearly lay all this stuff out, people just assume whatever it is that they want.
Yeah. Jeez, that's a lot. Yeah, and we also touched on this trend the other day about private equities sniffing around wanting to buy up the marinas. How many times have you gotten approached?
People are always just kind of, you know, gauging interest, or you never know. I mean, it's happened not a ton of times, but not counting more than on one hand, but maybe 3 or 4 times. You get a call or anybody just saying, "Hey, we do this kind of thing." But then it's always a process, and they want to look, and it kind of comes to find out. Like I think a lot of the people who are doing this now, they're only interested in very specific avenues of the business. Like no, it seems like nobody wants to do service. Service is a tough nut to crack in the marina business, and it seems like nobody wants to do that. If you're up north, people really want only access if you have a lot of heated indoor storage, or if you have, just slip rentals. They don't want to get into all these other intricacies because of a lot of the other problems that go along with the things that nobody ever tells you about in the marina. Kind of the marina horror show of back end stuff that really goes on with a lot of these situations that people don't know about. So a lot of the private equity people that I've talked to kind of look in, and they kind of because they want to know financials or look at your business or see kind of how you operate. But it's like, oh man, you're way too service orientated. We don't want any part of that. We just want, we
They
just
just
want
wanna own the thing.
storage, or we just want, yeah, well, we'll buy it and then lease it back to you, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, I'm not
Yeah.
interested in that or whatever. Like we've worked too long and too hard, and we're one of the last holdouts here. So, I mean, the plan is to be around for the foreseeable future, at least my lifetime. I hope to be able to be down here and to keep this going, because we have we're kind of created a fixture of the boating community here, and there's not a lot of ports here up and down the lake, and we're kind of a strategic one where a lot of the loopers. I don't know. I imagine you've heard a lot about the loopers, or not.
Mm-mm.
People doing the Great Loop.
No, I'm not familiar.
So the Great Loop, I mean, it's where people come from. You go down the Great Lakes, you go down the Mississippi, you take that all the way down to the Gulf, you go around the coast of Florida up the East Coast. Then a lot of people figure out their way back through the Erie Canal, or whether it be the St. Lawrence, and you can go on your whole boat and basically go do the whole river thing, all the Great Lakes, do the loop. So people will you start off in Chicago and you enter the lock system and you go down the river, and a ton of boats do this. Almost a lot of boats do it every year, or hire captains, or to take their big, if you've got a bigger yacht, um, and because a lot of people have ties with a lot of Michigan money and some bigger yachts in some of these areas that will basically pay their captain, hey, it's a 3 week or a month journey at the beginning and the end, but they really enjoy the Great Lakes and want to have their boat up here for the summertime because it's awesome. So they'll pay people to bring it around and bring it back up for the summer, and then they take it down to do their Caribbean thing or their Florida thing or wherever they want to be on the East Coast. But you can kind of take your own boat on its own bottom and take this big journey, and then people will pull off, or they'll maybe find a marina, or maybe do 3 weeks at a time, or whatever their schedule allows, find a marina to store at for a little bit, and then they come back to their boat and then do another section of the loop, you know. So, but we do a
That's
lot of boat preparation for that, getting people's systems ready, or before they enter the loop. Where we're about a day's ride, depending on what kind of boat, but a few hour ride from the city where you enter the lock system. So we're a good jump off point for a lot of the boats in transit that are doing that. So it's a whole little culture into itself. So
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that existed. Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what are you looking forward to other than surviving the winter, in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, man, I'm looking forward to maybe hopefully that the boat sales market kind of picks back, picks back up here a little bit, because I mean, God, for a while there, just got used to my spreadsheet of ongoing deals might be, 40 or 50 deals going on at one time down to really just a handful. And that's kind of just been a struggle to get used to scratching and clawing for deals when, a few years ago or in the high side of, COVID, things like that. I mean, you had people knocking down the doors and that was fun to be able to be in and be doing deals like that on a, consistent basis. And here it's kind of like we're out in the desert here, and any, leads are scarce, just the buyers are scarce in general. So, I mean, I'm looking to get back from to environment to where we can, the sales game is a little bit more lively. It certainly makes work a lot more fun when you're, ringing that closing bell as opposed to, you know, the scratching and clawing for one or two deals a month kind of thing is kind of lame.
Yeah. How do you market?
Well, I mean, of course, we always have our, like Boat Trader and Yacht World, and our website seems to be the most stuff. And then we're running our own social media sites and campaigns. And then it's, word of mouth. Like we have a pretty big, like I say, we've got 600 plus boats in the yard here. So like just by having that, you're running into life situations or people aging out of boating or new people getting in. So, or you have these divorce situations. So no matter what, it's kind of like the situations almost kind of find us just by operating the business we're operating in.
Yeah.
So, and that's mainly the most part, your website and your exposure there to all your listings that makes the phone ring, and then people call from all over because they do, like a lot of people on the coast love to buy freshwater boats because they're tend to be in a lot better condition. They don't have all the saltwater problems that go along with it. So like we will uh, I will ship boats all over the country. People will call and buy, and we'll figure it out. And if it's the right boat or the right situation, we'll pack it up and we'll arrange for transport, and it'll get shipped wherever it needs to get shipped.
Yeah. Awesome. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, I've definitely learned a ton. So thank you for sharing the good, the bad, running a marina. You definitely have a passion for it and a love for it. And I'm glad that is still family owned and you're a special part of the community.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk and give a little insight to what we have here. Just to try to put a star on the map so people know, you can boat around here. You have people that you can deal with. That you can create a relationship with you.
I
Very,
can't wait to
very nice.
see what you guys have in store. Any final send off message?
Just would encourage if anybody's interested to get into the boating market or to learn, like kind of offer those services. So if you want to partner with somebody or don't know, or even just want to like a basic consultation on whether it be a 15 or 30-minute phone call of like, hey, I'm looking to do this. What do I need to be aware of, or what should I look out? It's people need to be aware that this is a process that happens. It's not. It doesn't just happen quick, and you should really wrap your mind around all the different entry and exit points and wrap your mind around this whole process so you have a clear expectation of what you're getting into. Your outcome and your results and your joy will be, you know um, I hate to see people get soured on the boating experience, which I've seen too many times down here, of people entering with one expectation in their mind and the reality turns out to be totally different, and they just have no idea or clue. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for sharing and joining us and hope to have you back on again, maybe in a few months to see what's happening.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, feel free if you're ever in town or make it this way to give us a call or stop by. Happy to show you around or get you for a boat ride.
Love that. Well, thank you so much and enjoy your weekend.
All right, you too.